This conference will now be recorded.
All right, well, Andrew and Kong, thank you very much for both being here today and giving me the opportunity to give you an insight into our products. And I just want to let you know that I value your time. And during this presentation, there's only a couple of us here. So if you have questions, do not wait. And I have slides in here that'll say, do you have questions? But you absolutely do not have to wait for that. If a question comes up, you just ask me to say, Jack, I've got a question, and we'll discuss it at the time, because I want this to be a valuable experience for you. And as I said, this is being recorded, and when we are finished, you can then I will send you the link to where you can look at it. Basically, it's on YouTube on a channel of ours, and you might find value in even providing it to your customers or something. So again, ask questions if you.
No, this conference will now be recorded.
I don't know what happened there. Okay. It's
But just to give you some feedback, thank you, and understood. Ready to rock and roll.
So again, I'm not sure I've met either of you, but my name is Jack Bartell, and I am the Manager of Technical Services for North America for Olympia Splendid. I have been a full-time employee since the 1st of January. I was a full-time consultant with them for 3 months prior. But this is also my 50th year in the HVAC industry. So I was a director of training for York International. I spent 16 years actually with value-added distributors as their director of service and training, and they are the second largest distributor in the country for York International. Prior to that, I spent 10 years with Nastus Brothers, a medium-sized mechanical contractor. I was both service manager and I did residential sales. And prior to that, I'd spent 9 years basically learning my trade as a technician. Because I've been in the industry this long, I sit on a number of technical committees that basically provide guidance to the industry. And so this is my way of giving back to the industry that has provided me a great opportunity and a career. So if you ever find yourself in need of an answer from NATE or PARA or RSCS or ACCA, please reach out to me, because I have very good contacts with each of those organizations, so I can go to the people that can get answers quickly. And then I typically like to let people know that I do 2 things in my life primarily. One is I work hard, and then 2 is I play hard as a fisherman. So I fish on a regular basis, and I fish whenever I can. And as you look in these pictures here, just to be clear, I'm the one with the eyeglasses, okay? Now, the picture you see in the middle there was back in February in Florida, so that's the latest one. The others go back a little ways. But this vessel you see here is what just sunk. So prior to the sinking on Saturday, this thing was running pristine condition, and I could do 40 knots in a flat sea, and I could go 60 miles offshore for tuna, mahi-mahi, sailfish.
Wow, that's a nice boat.
Well, it was a nice boat, that much I'll agree. And this is actually its soon-to-be replacement. So this is a 30-foot Hydrosport. It's an absolute fishing machine, and you can see that tower up top, currently occupied by the owner and a personal friend of mine. He's owned this boat for 14 years since it was new, so I'm very confident I'm getting a very seaworthy. I've slept offshore on this boat 3 or 4 times, so I know exactly what it does. So that's my next project.
That looks exciting, Jack.
Yeah, that I can sleep 6 people offshore with and air conditioning, heating, all that stuff. But you got to do to keep your sanity, you know. Yep. So before we talk product, let's talk. So a lot of people are under the impression that whoever's got the dog, could you maybe mute yourself until you have a question? Thank you. So and feel free to unmute yourself anytime you have a question. So the company is not a Johnny-come-lately. It's been around for 63 years. It was founded in 1956. They have been manufacturing and designing air conditioning and heating products ever since they were put into business. And so, again, I think many people in the Americas don't know who they are because they've never sold in North America. But that does not take away from the fact that they have won multiple awards for design, and it is a very, very well-respected company. Here you can see the footprint of where we have representation. So everywhere from China and Australia and North America, South America, and various parts of Europe. This company has a very good footprint, and it is my job, as well as Diego's, to start the business here in the United States, and so far it is going amazingly well because these products have been very well received. So the product we are most proud of is the one that we are promoting with as much vigor as we can here in North America, but it's the Maestro line of products. So currently we have 2 units that are in the Maestro line. We have the Maestro Smart, which I'm showing, which we will talk about now. That is a single stage unit with a single stage compressor on, off, heating and cooling. It has 9,212 BTUs of cooling and 8,600 BTUs of heating. And again, the thing that makes this unit most unique, and there is no competition in this type of unit right now. So the only thing you see on the outside when this product is installed are these 2 grills. Everything else is inside. So it is a self-contained unit. You drill 2 holes through the wall that are 8 inches in diameter. And depending on your location, you also drill a 3/4 inch hole for a drain. And this application that I've circled is a below the window installation. And then if you look at the next picture below it, you can see that these units have been installed above the window. And the point here is these units can be installed on an outside wall. The unit must communicate with the outside, and it can be installed either 4 inches from the ceiling or 4 inches from the floor or anywhere in between. And in Europe, you can't put a window unit in a window. They just won't allow it. You can't hang a unit on the wall because they just won't allow it. It destroys the architectural integrity of the wall. So that's why it was developed in Europe and promoted in Europe. And this unit is not new by any means. There are over 500,000 of these units installed throughout the world. So this is not a beta test of a product. This is a product that has many years of very, very good experience in the field, okay? So as a part of it is a Italian design system. It is, they use what they call the Pure System 2, which is an easily accessible filter system. And the maintenance is easy as well because you just lift up one door and you have your access to your filters, or filter if you decide not to use the optional filters that come with it. And again, it has no outdoor unit. So the only thing you see on the outside wall are those 2 grills. Now, again, we're talking about the Smart unit here. And the Smart unit, if you look at the upper right-hand corner, the upper left-hand corner of this screen, you see the remote control. So every unit ships with a remote control. The only downside to this, and I'll point it out later as well, is on the Smart, the single stage unit, 9,212 BTUs, the remote control is Fahrenheit only. So if you have an application where somebody wants a Celsius display, then that is an option that can be ordered as an accessory. And it is a patented unit, and the design is patented. And I think what's important to keep in mind about that is because nobody has anything like it right now, And having worked for a manufacturer for many years myself, and having been a part of a long list of design projects for new product, both residential and commercial, I know the process and how long it takes to develop a product from scratch. And any product that you design from scratch is a 2.5 to 3 year initial design to public release of a product that you're going into production with. So in my view, that you have a couple of years at least of a certain level of exclusivity with regard to folks that want this type of a design. If you look in the lower right-hand picture, you see STC as 36 and OITC as 25. Now, these values are used throughout North America, most typically in large cities where the sensitivity to cutting a hole in the wall and thereby introducing additional outside noise to the inside space is very critical. And so they have these two values, STC, which is sound transmission class, and then OITC, which is outdoor indoor transmission class. The higher the number, the lower the amount of sound transfer is allowed. And so many of these cities have minimums that you must meet in order to even be allowed to install the unit. The STC of 36 and the OITC of 25 are the highest in the industry. I repeat, the highest in the industry, nobody else comes close. So another competitive advantage. And by comparison, Amana publishes a marketing piece that promotes the quietness of their unit as regards these two values. Their STC is 29 to 31, depending on the size, and their OITC is 19 to 21, depending on its size. So not even close to our numbers. And no one can achieve a higher number because the 36 and the 25 are based on the walls that were tested. Nothing can be higher. So what that means is the wall was tested before the unit was mounted, and it had an STC of 36 and it had an OITC of 25. The wall was tested after the unit, after the holes were cut in the unit, mounted in a representative wall. The numbers did not change, which means the amount of noise that was permitted into the space did not change before or after the unit's introduction onto the walls. Therefore, it provided no negative. Lower left is the warranty, 7-year compressor warranty, 2-year part warranty on everything on the unit. And then if the compressor fails in the first year, we would provide a replacement unit with the understanding that the old unit has to be returned either to me or to the nearest service center that we designate as an authorized service center, because that compressor would have to be evaluated. And I will give you one last statistic before we move on. When I worked for a manufacturer, we would, we had a product that eventually was released. We would monitor 3 things as regards how good we felt the quality of the product and the components were. So those 3 things were then massaged into a formula to create a sales to warranty ratio. Now, that the 3 criteria are parts that fail in the first 30 days, parts that fail within the first year, and parts that fail within the first 5 years, which of course requires at least 5 years in the field before you can add in that matrix. So those 3 things would be massaged. And if we had a sales to warranty ratio of less than 2%, we considered ourselves to be geniuses, because that is a very difficult number to achieve when you are mass producing things. The goal is always 0, but that's very difficult to achieve. So the warranty rate, based on the fact that there are over 500,000, over 500,000 of these units already installed in the field for up to 20 years. The warranty to sales ratio is 0.002%. And that, my friends, is darn near perfect. So you don't have to worry about lots of breakdowns with this product. So the installation is really key in that it be done correctly, and that's true of any piece of equipment, right? But this unit, in the hands of someone that has been trained in its installation, should take an hour and a half at most, if we're talking about standard walls and not, concrete walls or block walls or stone walls, all of which you can install them in, but they would take longer because cutting the holes takes longer. So every unit comes with a template that you put on the wall, and it has all the markings required for you to cut the holes that would be required. And here you see an example of what that looks like. And the wrong button. So two things to keep in mind here. You can see that there are two holes that are laid out here. So this hole, and my mouse is missing, so I'm doing this by using my pad on my, which is not easy. So this is an 8-inch hole for your air exhaust, and this is, your air intake, and this is the 8-inch hole for your exhaust. But you'll notice inside of that there is also a second dimension of 6.4 inches. So the preference by the factory is that you cut two 8-inch holes, but if because of dimensional constraints, geometric constraints of your job site, if you can't use two 8-inch holes, you can actually use two 6.4-inch holes. When you do that, you lose some efficiency and some capacity. Now, it's measurable, but it's not terribly significant in terms of percentage. So, but unless you absolutely have to, those would be the recommended size. Now, this is for,
Jack, quick question.
Yep, sure.
Sorry to interrupt. Quick question. With regards to the sizing of the holes, so the options are either 8-inch round or 6.4-inch, and nothing in between?
Nothing in between. Okay?
And what's the explanation for that, to where, because a contractor is going to say, well, then I can good with 7-inch, right?
Well, and again, the contractor certainly can do that. But the factory has to take some precautions to validate what it can do under specific conditions. So if you wanted to say we'd have to approve anything from 6.4 to 8-inch, we would have to do multiple tests at 7-inch, at 7.5-inch, at 8-inch. And I'm the guy that would be, in North America, I'm the guy that would say yay or nay to any application, okay? And let's say a contractor came to me and said, based on my application, I'm going to put in 7-inch duct. And I will still be within the maximum depth of the wall. I won't have any elbows. I won't have any turns. Will you approve this? And my answer will be this, because I'm concerned not just with the unit functioning, but the liability that falls back on the manufacturer, okay? And I would say, I personally don't see where it would be a problem, but I cannot give you a letter saying that the factory approves it. Because once you create that letter, you have simply agreed to take on all the responsibility for that job based on the fact that you have approved it. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And so just to clarify, you have approval at 6.4, right?
That is correct.
And at 8, because you have performance data and you can confirm what the unit is doing at those sizes. but
That is
not at
correct.
7,
So-
not at 6.5,
Correct.
not at 6.6.
Correct. And
Correct?
so, someone with a logical mind would say, well, if it's going to work at 6.4, it's going to work at 7.5. Okay. And I wouldn't argue that logic. I just can't give you empirical evidence to support it. But does that make sense?
Gotcha. Yep, understood. Thank you.
Again, it all boils down to how much liability you're willing to take on. And all manufacturers take on the liability they feel is appropriate. But unless we test it, we don't know it. And that comes from a long career in dealing with manufacturers and design criteria. So, and application, So when I worked for York, I was the guy that they would call with these special applications for equipment up to 100 tons. And I gave approval to many things and I denied many more because, again, I have to look not just at the best interests of the customer, the end user, the contractor, but also the manufacturer. So I would use that same logic when I was called, or when I'm called to provide application.
Okay, the late guy's here.
All right. So, John, we took a vote, and you have to buy lunch because you were late.
I know, I got these engineers on the phone. I gotta get rid of them.
No worries. No worries.
Funny. I'm sorry.
No
I
problem.
heard your boat sank or something. I got a text from Andrew.
Well, yeah, and we've already discussed the whys and the hows. So
Okay, I'll catch up later on that.
yeah, you can catch up later. So let's see, where am I here? So I think
So John, just a quick recap on that slide because I think it's important. Basically, the design is for 8-inch round for the
Correct.
holes, but
Right.
we can also go down to 6.4, okay? But only at those 2 points, 6.4 and 8-inch. And sorry to kind of jump in there, Jack, but it's one of the ways that I remember is to retell it, right, and to teach it, just so that it cements into my own mind,
of course.
right?
Well, what about, but the grill, the louver is 8.
Correct. And that's actually, what engineering has said to me in the past is that if you use if you do 6.4, you cut the grill in at 8 and then you reduce the duct going to the grill is going to be 6.4. Now we are trying to source right now a 6.4-inch grill that would allow for that, but I don't have a source for it yet, but we are working on it and hope to provide one in the not too distant future.
Have you looked at Easy Box or whatever it is? The guy's out of Texas. I gave it to Diego.
I think that's one of the companies we have started some negotiating with as regards to what can they provide that would give us, to me, it's all about the free area and the level of resistance that the fans can accommodate. So this COVID thing has reduced our ability to do many things with regard to R&D, but and I don't know if you guys are familiar enough with engineering to know what R&D stands for, but many people think it's research and development. It's actually rob and duplicate. Okay, so you.
Well, yeah, this company. It's X-Vent Box.
Right, and I've seen it. In fact,
I got a call back from one of their designers, but I missed the call. But they can do all kinds of things. We can do a concentric, which I think is a nice clean look, because discussions have come up about obviously cutting a round hole in stucco is not easy. Now wood is fine, siding, but stucco it's a little challenging. It'd be all the builders I talk to prefer to do a rectangular opening in stucco.
And we are working with again Xbox as well as another vendor to come up with a rectangular grill, and it might be, let's call it 2 8-inch rectangular grills, or one grill that is 8-inch high
By
by
16,
28
whatever.
inches long or something that you can accommodate both. So you have a single grill. But again,
And
it's
single hole.
the free area. So that these motors, the outdoor motor, the outdoor fan motor, it's not designed to have static pressure put against it. It's small enough that it can't accommodate additional resistance. And could we put in a larger motor? Sure. Larger motors use more watts. Larger motors are louder. And so at some point, the factory has to say what's acceptable and what isn't. And then you limit your applications to those that are acceptable. And yes, you may lose a few sales to that, but you're also not going to destroy the integrity of your entire product line by making it too loud and too so much less efficient with the more watts. So, everything is a balance.
Right.
So all I would say is you will be in the loop of things when they change, and that's one of the things that we are looking at making a change to. So
Well, good. Yeah, I figured Diego's, yeah.
oh yeah.
Tokyo or Innova is using these things too, apparently.
Yeah, and we know, there's one other manufacturer out there that claims to have a product that's similar. We are suspect as to its as to the validity of the capacities that they project based on their size. So we're kind of dealing with that as a separate issue, but we understand. See, the European market is more limited in its diversity of product that is required and the sizes. So once we got into the North American market, we have to develop the accessories and even the capacities based on what's needed in this market. And by that, I mean, we're looking at a 15,000 and an 18,000. We're looking at called Maestro Twin, which I'll show you later. We're looking at different types of grills, different types of options for mounting. But again, all of that we have to keep within the confines of what the unit can allow for. So suffice it to say, anytime you're adding to an existing design other things, you have to do it at the proper pace or you make mistakes. And because we're a new product on the market, I would rather wait longer and do it correctly than try to rush it and do it wrong. Because if I do it wrong, then you guys are paying the price and then we pay the price. So after making those two holes in the wall, again, a 3/4 inch hole as well for the drain line, you're going to put your bracket on the wall as you see in that picture to the left, and then you're going to put in the ductwork. Now, this is the ductwork that ships with the unit. It's basically a flat piece of composite plastic. You cut it to about an inch or inch and a half less than the total depth of your wall from the outside to the inside. And then you just roll it into a circle and you now have a round duct. You put tape on the top, you put tape on the bottom, you put it into the wall. Because it's in the wall, it's never going to go anywhere. It can't expand or contract. And now you have your ductwork complete. After you complete your ductwork, you then have to install the grill outside. And you can do that by, if it's on the first floor, you can just go outside, put a short ladder up against the wall and attach the grill if you'd like, and even screw it into the wall if you wanted to do that. But if you're on the second floor or the 30th floor of a commercial building, setting up a scaffold or rappelling down from the roof, not as much as attractive as not doing it. So the grills actually fold in half that are going outside. So you just take the grill and you push it through the hole. But prior to doing that, you attach the spring and the chain to the grill. Now you use the spring and the chain to hold the grill in place. You fold it in half, let it go, it opens up. Then you use the spring and the chain to hold it tight up against the outside wall, and for all intent and purpose, you are finished outside, okay? So what you're holding it against is the inside ring. So you have the outside grill, which you see from left to right. It's the first and the third. So you have the intake and exhaust grill, and then you have the intake and exhaust ring that goes on the inside wall. So the spring and the chain attach basically on the grill. The spring and the chain attach to these two mounting knobs, if you will. And then on the indoor ring, the other end, sorry, I'm gonna work without my mouse here. Dang it. I don't know why I'm why did that take so long? I'm working without a mouse, that's why. But so on the ring, we have these little knobs here, and that's where the spring, and now it just holds itself together, if that makes sense, okay? And again, there are 500,000 of these installed around the country, so it does work quite well. So as I mentioned earlier, in the upper left, you see the remote control. And with the door open, that gives you access to all the functions. And on the lower left, you see where you put the batteries in. And in the middle, you see that there is where it says Fahrenheit on it, degrees Fahrenheit. So if you have an application with a smart that requires Celsius, that is an accessory that you have to order. You can also see the little bracket that has sticky tape on it. So you can just mount that near the unit by the wall, and that way you always know where the remote control is going to be. These things are 115 volt. So you'll plug them into any standard outlet. They use anywhere from 8 to 8.5 amps. So it can be installed in a standard outlet, and it does have a GFI protection built into the plug.
Jack, outside of the remote controls, are there controls on the units themselves?
Well, there is a way on the unit itself to where you can, let's say somebody loses the remote, okay? You can put the unit into operation, and it will be the last mode of operation that it was in. So you can enable and disable the unit until you can get a replacement control. We have Wi-Fi capable thermostats. We have wireless thermostats that can be mounted on the wall and thereby eliminating the loss of a remote control. And we are just now, in fact, I was rewriting the instructions for the Wi-Fi module for the Pro model and for the Smart model. So that will be coming very shortly, where you can install a little board into the unit that will connect to Wi-Fi and an app that you'll have on your phone. Then you can adjust it from anywhere in the world if you have Wi-Fi. Did that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay. So if you have a glass window application, not a problem. The Italians say non ti preoccupare, because that is don't worry about it, not a problem. And so this contractor in Canada had this application. I think there are a dozen or more units on this building, but they sourced these plastic grills, clear plastic grills that had the same air free area as the original, and they created a little composite bracket that just sits on the floor, and the unit, you cut the holes in through this, and you cut the holes through the glass with a glass. And on the far right, you see the finished product. And it worked fabulously for them. So all I would say to you is when you have a project that's a little bit outside the box, don't automatically say, well, I don't think I can do that. Give us a call, give us the specifics, and we'll either already have a solution in place or we'll work with you to create the solution. So don't pass up on a job just by default. This kind of gives you a quick feel of the air going in and the air going out. The only thing I would keep in mind for you here is this graphic showing the air going, coming into the unit on the left when you're looking at it from the front and exhausting on the right when you look at it from the front is completely opposite to what we do today. In other words, this is the first design unit that was used for about 10 years. The design we're using now has the intake on the right as you're looking at the front and the exhaust on the left as you're looking at the front. But everything else, as far as the water flow, all those other things are all the same. So this is a graphic showing the chains and how they go through and attach onto the grill. And note that the pitch of the duct going to the outside is the higher end should be the inside and the lower end should be the outside. And that allows condensate, not condensate, but probably rainwater that might go into the grill to be discharged back out the building. And again, we talked about different types of grills, but the one on the right here was actually one that was used in the field, and it caused the unit to go out on high pressure because they wanted something rectangular, but they just used something off the shelf, and they found that it doesn't work much goodly. So that had to be corrected. So never use any third-party grills or unless they are approved by the factory, because if it contributes to a problem rather than contributing to a safely operating unit, then the warranty can become impacted by that. And the other thing is we don't permit any mesh grills or filters inside the duct. Here you can see a couple of examples of why units failed in the field because they used these bug screens that did not provide the correct amount of free area. Now, I'm currently working with a vendor that produces mesh grids that would give me the type of free area that I could require, and it will be effective in keeping out larger bugs, critters like birds and geckos if you're down south. I don't know if you guys have those things up in the Northwest or not, but in Florida, you can't spit in the wind without hitting a gecko, So we are developing something that will allow for that, but it's just not ready for the market just yet.
Hey, Jack, question on the grill orientation. It's shown there in the louvers themselves, horizontal. Does it matter the orientation if it's vertical or horizontal?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Let's go back up to, so here it's showing that the louvers themselves you're talking about on the grill?
Correct.
And let's see. Yeah, so this is showing that the louvers in the horizontal position.
Yeah.
The problem if you go vertical, okay, is if you have, in this application, a standard rain that's not blowing hard at the grill. A standard rain will just drip down and drip off. If you have it vertically, your likelihood of having more rain entry is higher. Okay. Does that make sense?
Understood. So it doesn't affect performance.
Correct.
It just affects the intrusion.
Correct.
Elements intrusions.
Exactly. Okay. And again, you'd have to be, if you did it this way, you'd have to be careful that your intake grill and your exhaust grill, that the direction, because there is a slight pitch to those louvers, you want to make sure they're not pitched toward one another. That would allow for recirculating of exhaust air with intake air.
Okay, so then because of the pitch, there's actually just one way that it should go. There's a top side and a bottom side.
Correct, correct. And when you have one of these in your hand, you'll see what that is, because if you put it in upside down, instead of the air being directed slightly downward, the grill is slightly upward, and you can see immediately, okay, there's a rain catcher. It's not going to shed rain, it's going to collect rain.
Gotcha.
So it's not hard to see which is the top and the bottom. Oop. So one of the things you can do, as I mentioned earlier, you can be 4 inches from the top or 4 inches from the bottom of a wall. If you're going to install it 4 inches from the top on the smart unit, you have to change the direction of the movable flap that provides, the airflow to be in different directions, sort of modulating. And so if you're going to, it comes in the factory designed for a low wall application. So if it's a high wall application, it takes about 4 minutes. You just have to flip that thing around. And condensate is depending on where you are in the country or the continent, if you have to use an outside drain, then that drain should pitch from the inside to the outside to ensure it drains properly. And you want to keep in mind that in the summertime, there will be little to no condensate because there are 2 floats in the unit. The first float turns on a pump that takes the condensate that's built up and cycles it over top of the outdoor coil, which uses that condensate for higher efficiency, lower temperature on the condenser, and therefore higher capacity. So and then it re-evaporates and basically goes out through the exhaust. So in the summertime, unless you're in a very humid area, which I think you guys are, based on the fact that you rain so often up there, then you probably will have some condensate. But in a lot of parts, in fact, in Europe, it's very common for them not to install a drain because they don't have the condensate buildup. Now, in the winter time, if you're using it for heating, you do have to have a drain or a means of getting rid of the condensate because we can't recirculate and reuse the condensate or basically the melt off from the defrost mode. So in some cases, if you're in a very cold climate, you can't just put it outside. You have to cycle that condensate somewhere inside where it can be disposed of without allowing it to freeze in the tube if you have weather below 32 degrees. So if you're going to an existing drain, as you can see here in the upper right of this picture, if you're going into a storm drain or a sewer drain, you have to put a trap in the line so that you don't get, that'll hold a little bit of water here, and then you don't get fumes that back up into your unit. Now, there are some people that install them without a drain because they don't have enough moisture to worry about, depending on their application. So if you do that, or if the drain blocks up for any reason, it will shut the unit off. There is a high water float, and the unit will shut off before it's allowed to overflow. So if that's the case, you just open the door on the bottom, take out the plug, and drain it out. It'll be back to functioning again. Make sense?
Yeah, now we're always going to be using it for heat in our market, so we're going to have the drain for defrost, obviously.
Of course, and again, I mention these things only because, one day I'm talking to somebody in Northwest, then I'm talking to somebody in the Northeast, and or in Arizona or something where they don't have humidity. So everything is subjective to your particular application.
But the defrost is going to be no matter what. If you go into defrost, you're going to need a drain. Like
exactly.
You said, what are you going to do with the wet?
Yeah. I would argue only this, that there are many applications in Europe and even in the United States where the amount of heat you're going to have is going to be limited. So in Europe, a lot of them don't run a drain, and the consumer knows that if every 3 or 4 days the unit shuts down, they just have to open that bottom door, drain it out, put the plug back in, and and they're back in business. So you can use it without a drain, but if you have a lot of condensate, you don't want to, because then you might be emptying it 2 times a day.
Right.
So this is actually a point where I ask if there are other questions, and if so, please go ahead and ask. So everything we've done up to now has been the Maestro Smart. Now we're going to talk about the Maestro Pro. Now the Maestro Pro is an inverter-driven product that has a higher capacity. So the Smart unit is single stage on, off, 9,212 BTUs, 8,600 BTUs in heating. The Pro is 11,600 BTUs of cooling, about 10,600 BTUs of heating, and inverter driven means it can be at 35% capacity or running at 100% capacity, depending on the demand. So it is much more efficient. Even though it's a larger capacity, it uses less watts than its predecessor. It has inverter-driven technology on the compressor, but also ECM technology on the motors for indoor and outdoor. So it's quiet. It can be in various modes and various capacities. Now, you can't tell it to go to 50% capacity. You can't tell it to go to 80% capacity. You just set your parameters, such as what temperature do I want in this space? What mode of operation, heating, cooling, night setback, or night mode, silent mode, dehumidification. You tell it what you want it to do, and then it brings on the compressor and changes the speed of that compressor as is needed. So you'll never be able to walk up to you and say, oh, it feels like it's running about 70%. You'll never be able to do that. So just trust in the fact that it will provide the capacity needed. It uses what's known as a PID loop, proportional integral derivative. And so how far it is from set point, how quickly the temperature is either going up or going down to reach that set point, and how what capacity is needed to do that in the most efficient way. And so just note that it will do what it needs to do without any input other than setting your parameters. And as we mentioned earlier, the STC and OITC, highest in the industry, nobody can touch it. So it is a more contemporary design. In fact, they paid big bucks to have a very well-known Italian design firm update the look from what it was to what you see. And it has been very, very highly received by people all over the world, okay? So again, it has sleep mode, auto mode, economy mode, fan only mode, dehumidification mode. So you have many options on here, as you do on the Smart. However, with the inverter technology, it does it much more efficiently. So its remote, by comparison to the Smart remote, can be changed from Celsius to Fahrenheit or back just with the pressing of a button. So that makes it much easier if you sell into the Canadian market, or if you are selling or you have a consumer that just moved down from Canada and they think in Celsius and they want their device in Celsius, no problem. Just hit a button. And then the rest of the functions, they are sort of self-explanatory. In the installation instructions, every icon that you can see on the remote is identified for you much as it is here. So you can look at it and say, well, what the heck does D5 mean? And you go over to D5. Okay, that means I'm in automatic mode, okay? So that means I can go into cooling or heating or whatever I feel I need to satisfy my demand. And, D2, well, that tells me I'm in cooling mode. D1 tells me I'm in heating. So it just gives you an understanding of what all those icons are. Oh, my goodness. I had a I had to take a picture of my medical insurance card for someone. And so I took the picture and I put it in here, and then I took a picture with my phone. I forgot to delete it. Anyway, the Maestro PTAC kit is something that we're doing a very good, we think this is a solution that will provide unparalleled ability for the contractor to, let's say you have an existing PTAC and it's 15 years old and they want to replace it, but they don't want that same ugly, noisy thing in their house. We have created a retrofit kit that, quite frankly, is nothing more than a 6-sided box constructed of 1.5-inch ductboard. And I'm going to escape out of here, quite frankly, and I'm going to go to here and go to here. Here. So this is the retrofit kit. And again, it consists of just, it comes shipped to you flat. You fold it in the pre-cut areas. You put the tape on that comes with it. And basically what you wind up with is a 6-sided box insulated with 3 inches of insulation, front to back, top to bottom, side to side. And then you install it in, you basically remove the PTAC, you leave the existing sleeve there, you slide this box in its place, you put the wall template on, cut your holes in the box, and you're done. So very easy installation, very cost effective, and it satisfies that demand of satisfying those existing PTAC applications. Okay. So,
Hey, real quick, not a question for you, Jack, but it's more for John and Andrew. In terms of the California market, I thought that they had outlawed like fiberglass ductboard. Is that just on ducting? Is this still usable?
Oh, no, you can use it on ducting too.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
You're still
Okay.
using it on everything. What size PTAC is this, Jack? Is this the old ones like 36 or 42?
well, we actually have, we have 2 part numbers, one for the older, smaller, and one for the newer, larger.
Okay.
So you can use it for either one.
That's awesome.
You know, the difference is our unit is only 36 inches or so, or maybe it's 33 inches, whatever, wide, right? And so if you've got a 42, then on the inside of your wall, you'd probably want to get a small piece of, you can buy it at Lowe's, like 1/4-inch PVC board. And you put it on the ends, and you could use, whatever it is that you need just to make it look good. But on the smaller one, the unit goes right over the hole and you don't even know it's there, because it's actually, I think it's 26.5 inches is the width of the older ones.
Oh,
And
is
then-
it? Okay.
Yeah. So it completely covers the old ones, and then you may need a side piece for the newer ones.
Got it.
Oh, I forgot I actually added that slide in. So I did add the slide in that shows, because I have an installation instruction for it, but that's just showing you how it gets put together. And one has to assume that people doing the install have never done ductboard before. So this just tells them how to do it without and being safe, you know. All right, questions on the Pro model. Keeping in mind, we didn't go through the same installation slides for the Pro model because they are exactly identical to the Smart. So no point in covering those things twice.
So, Jack, I noticed on the remote control of the Pro model that it had that Wi-Fi signal. It isn't that it's Wi-Fi. That's just showing that it's a transmission is in process, right? So if
You
you
mean
zoom
here?
to the very top, right? It shows what is typically seen on your phone and your computers as being a Wi-Fi signal. It isn't that this remote is Wi-Fi capable. It's that D4 is that it's in the process of transmitting
Correct. And it's actually, you know, I had never thought about that, in that it does very much resemble a Wi-Fi, but it is not. In this application, those are two separate things.
Good icon.
Got it. Thank you. Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's the consumers are gonna catch that, and contractors.
So I will probably make a change to the installation instructions and to this slide that says not Wi-Fi or something, just so you know it's more clear.
There you go.
All right, so we've talked about the Pro, we've talked about the Smart. Now, you know, I'd like to cover a few things that are coming down the road with regard to our product. Some things are already here, and then some things are going to be here, you know, in the next year to 2 years. So just to give you a feel for what that's going to be. So the next thing that we're going to introduce is Maestro Twin. I had hoped to have this by end of third quarter this year, but the COVID, you know, threw a monkey wrench into that plan, and I think we'll probably have this optimistically first quarter of next year. But what this is similar to a mini split that can have one outdoor unit and two indoor units. Here we can mount a Maestro unit as the main unit, then just mount a fan coil, and of course the Maestro unit's got to be mounted on an outside wall. The fan coil unit can be mounted on an inside wall. And all you have to do is run refrigerant lines and electrical from the main unit to the air fan coil. And now what the unit does is it can split its capacity between both spaces. And we have had a great deal of interest in this, and I will look forward to having it in the market.
And is it 12K or 9K that's still the maximum combined of both of them?
This one will be the Pro model, so it'll be close to 1 ton. Excuse me. But as we go forward, we're going to have this in the 15,000 and the 18,000 as well.
Wow.
We also have access to what we call the B2 product. Now, this is for applications in buildings that have either chilled water running already on site and or hot water, say from a boiler. So this is a very low profile fan coil that can use hot water or cold water or both. And so it can be mounted high on the wall, low on the wall. And as you can see from this slide, it's only 5.1 inches in depth. So very low profile when it comes to, you know, the intrusion into the room. It is as quiet as a mini split air handler. So very unobtrusive. But again, you can have a hot water coil, or you can have just a chilled water coil, or you can have both. So if your building has chilled water and hot water, you run your water in and water out for both coils, and now you have dehumidification as well. And here you see a different version of it. It can be installed high, low, but that 5 1/8 inch is very, again, low impact on the wall. And because everybody has to have something that's naked, this is our B2 Naked series. And what this does is it can be mounted into the wall, and the only thing that is showing on the outside of the wall is the grill. So now instead of protruding 5 1/4 inches into or 5.1 inches into the space, it has an intrusion of about 1/2 an inch because of the grill. So again, then your piping, everything is buried in the wall, including your unit, and you have a very clean look. And you can see it can be installed into the wall, or if you look at the lower right, it can be installed vertically in the ceiling, where the only thing you see is a supply grill and a return grill. And again, we have a variety of accessories to support that product. Now, I suspect we will have this ready to ship, I'm hoping, before the end of the year, but we are, again, this COVID thing has pushed everything back. So we will certainly let you know when this is available. But all of our folks that are in, say, urban areas where they have large buildings, where they have chillers and boilers, this will serve a very good purpose.
What about valves, Jack? They come with valves already, solenoids and flow control, or
no, it doesn't come with it comes with a control board and a remote control and all that will energize and provide contact to whatever solenoid you decide to use. Because
okay, so just bare pipe. Okay.
Yeah, because we don't know how you want your system to operate, so including them doesn't make sense, because you might want, a variable valve on there that responds to an input that you're going to provide, or
Right.
you may one that, is when the contact's closed, you want it fully open. When the contact's open, you want it fully closed, or opposite. So we let you make that choice.
Okay, and there would be 24. Well, is there 24 volt supply voltage, or?
Well, all it is contact for your, so, if you're running 24 volt to your valves, then you're just going to take the hot side of the 24 and run it to our normally open contact. And when it does it does nothing more than let the signal through.
Got it. So we'd set it up 2-way, 3-way, whatever the job requires.
Again, and that's the intent there, is to let you have the flexibility you need to meet your application.
Okay.
And again, this is just showing you some of the different components. So questions on the B2? By the way, when we are finished here today, and I will be making this video available to you that we've recorded today, but I'm also going to send you a link where you can download this presentation in PowerPoint fashion, so you can adjust it as you see fit. Okay. In this presentation, I use about 50 of the 160 slides, because I have many slides in there having to do with the technical side. But for the sales presentation, I don't go into that really tough minutia. But should you decide you have a customer that wants to know that, and you have the skill set to present them the technical side, you certainly can. But I would encourage you to call me anytime. Say, hey, I've got a contractor who's getting ready to install one of these, or 10 of these, or hopefully 1,000 of these, but he needs to be trained first. That's what I do. You call me, we'll set it up. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is our Dolce Clima line. So this is a line of portables that serve a marvelous purpose for rather consumers, businesses, and for contractors. And I can tell you, one of the things many of our contractors are doing is they're buying 12 or 15 of these things. And if somebody has a unit that fails in their house, they'll bring 6 or 7 of them to this house, put them in. Now they have heating and cooling until they can get around to replacing the main unit in the house. So these are heat pumps or cooling only. This one is 10,000 BTUs. Okay. You see,
hey Jack, real quick on this. Sorry to interrupt there, and this might be more Diego to answer, but this is the product that's in Lowe's, correct? This lineup series.
I believe it's in Lowe's, and it's in Bed Bath & Beyond.
Okay, so follow up to that. Do you have kind of any idea if there's what the price structure difference is at all? Is that more Diego?
That is a Diego. So
okay,
I'm in the service and training side, which means I'm allowed to live in blissful ignorance of pricing. Okay. But I know
Gotcha.
you guys know that you guys need to know that stuff, but that you're going to get from Diego. So again, this unit just is on casters. It can roll around the room. In the far right, you see the accessories that come with it, because you just have to take a 6-inch hose and put it out a window, and that way you're exhausting your heat out, or bringing your heat in, and if it's in heating mode. Okay. So the specifications for this unit are, and again, this file you're going to download later, if you choose to do so, includes the specification sheets for everything we've talked about today, installation instructions, part lists, all of those things. Okay. So you might give that, so I can say each of these things. We have the Pro Series heat pump, which has 14,000 and 11,000 BTUs of heating. And then we also have the 14 AC only. So depending on your market, if you want it just cooling or if you want cooling and heating. But again, portable units that serve a wide range of purposes. And they are the specs.
Hey, Jack, regarding the specs there, and I didn't see it in the standard Maestro and or the Pro. I mean, as you know, in your York days, the numbers that everybody's looking at, right, is SEER and HSPF.
Sure.
And I see that we list EER. Are there plans to rate and get SEER and HSPF?
Yeah, so we do, on some of the products, we provide EER, COP. We also have HSPF, and we have CEER. So we're going to be adding in, especially the Maestro product line, we're going to add in all of those values. These units are considered by the DOE as room units, and room units are rated in CEER. When I say these units, I'm talking about the Maestro, not the mobiles. So CEER means combined energy efficiency ratio, and that takes into account watts used in standby mode. SEER does not. Seasonal efficiency ratio does not. So if you look at a product as a CEER, in almost all cases, the SEER will be 0.1% higher than the CEER, okay? Because you're talking about a small number of watts for in standby mode.
Jack, what you just explained there was priceless, okay? Because of what this product is and its classification.
Exactly.
That's the story that we need to tell. That was great. Thank you.
Well, and I can tell you that anything I give you that's priceless, I don't charge extra for, okay?
Outstanding. You're all heart, man. Now I feel even more bad about your boat.
Right. So my point is, as we go forward, for instance, on the Maestro, we're getting ready to have it certified with and provide it with a AHRI certification and AHRI listing. Now, because it is considered a room unit, we are under no obligation legally to provide that information. However, most of our customers and most engineers want that information. And so to get the Maestro Pro AHRI certified, we had to join AHRI, and we now have to provide the testing for the AHRI testing. And so that's about a $25,000 investment. Plus, we have to have an engineer from the factory attend the testing. So, it's a very high cost item, but we believe it's worthwhile, because in the end, if you don't have some of these values, you're not even considered for some projects. So the fact that it's not required doesn't diminish the fact that our customers want it. So we're going to make the investment and provide it.
No, agreed. And thank you for doing that. And the reason why I was asking specifically on the SEER and the HSPF is that we do work a lot with utilities and utility
Sure.
rebates and programs, and they live in that SEER and HSPF world. And
Oh,
so
agreed.
it's one thing to present to them the CER and tell them that it's, you know, a certain percentage higher, you know, when equated to SEER, but it's one of those things then you have to, you know, put forth a different standard and protocol, and it's best to just speak the language that they speak.
That's
And, you know, when it's listed as a heat pump um, product, and if your heat pump hits this HSPF, you get X amount of dollars back.